Thank you, dear. Good morning, folks. How are you? Good. I am thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me in. It's a wonderful event, and I am duly impressed with all of your efforts and everything you're doing in this world. Today, I'd like to talk about you. This isn't about me. This is about thinking about who you are as a leader, who you want to be. I like to think about how we can express our feelings, our emotions, our stories, our background. We tell people we want them to be authentic, and then we tell them, but behave this way. Kind of doesn't make sense to me. So as I've thought about leadership, I've tried to develop a different model where I'm giving you the tools to pull out the answers you already have. Back in September of 2009, 40,000 leaders around the world freaked out. And I know they freaked out because they all came to my blog. And what they came to the blog for was to read a post that was entitled, 10 Reasons Your Team Hates You, They Just Won't Say It to Your Face. Now that post had everything going on. It was a list post. It preyed on fear and paranoia and insecurity. But at the heart of it, it was a little bit alarming that all these folks have this thought that my team doesn't like me and I don't know why. Lacking that awareness as a leader is pretty troubling when you stop and think about it. So what I'd like to do is share a little bit of my background. I have a bit of a different introduction than Sheila gave me. She gave the official version. I'd like to share my background so you understand my lens on the world. I did go to West Point. It's the most beautiful place you'll ever hate. The best view of it is in the rear view mirror. It was not on the list of America's top party schools. Now, after the academy, I was an armor officer. I served on tanks. My job was blow things up and run things over. I was a tank platoon leader. The only fighting I did was in a bar, and it was very justified. No charges were pressed. After my time in the Army, I was a consultant with McKinsey & Company, served clients in healthcare, banking, retail, internet startups, everything from corporate strategy to really ugly cost cutting. I then had a couple of corporate stints. I was at Capital One Financial, a credit card company out of Richmond, Virginia. I ran about half of collections. I'm Italian. It was a good fit. And then I was at Scott's Miracle-Gro, so Ortho, Roundup, Turf Builder, all those great consumer packaged goods. And I was VP of Corporate Strategy there. I do like to write. I have written 3 books. Today what I'd like to focus on is one piece of paper. So the Leadership Maxims method, a maxim is nothing more than a principle or rule of conduct. It is a personal code of conduct, a rule of behavior for you. And when you write your maxims down, those maxims serve as triggers. They are reminders. They take you out of here and into here. Because this thinks faster than this. This is where emotional resonance is. This is where behavioral change is. And those triggers remind you of those experiences that you've had, those stories that have been so powerful in your life. And in just my short time here at the convention, I've heard some wonderful, wonderful stories from some of you. And this is exactly what I'm trying to get at, because those stories are the source of behavioral change. They drive action. We've all made bad decisions at one point in our lives or another. Maxims are supposed to keep you on the straight and narrow. They help you decide, I'm facing this dilemma right now. I don't know what to do. I'm stressed out. Should I choose A or should I choose B? Your maxims will serve as that touchstone, and that touchstone enables you to be consistent. Your maxims will say, choose A. This is the direction you said you want to go. This is the type of leader you said you are. Why would you ever choose B? And that consistency then forms that bond of trust between you and the members of your team. Think about the people in your life who you have the strongest bonds with outside of your family. Think about teachers, coaches, bosses along the way. And I would venture to bet that the closest relationships, the most trust-based relationships, are because you know them as an individual. So the Leadership Maxims method is about taking your story and being known to the people that you work with. So where do you find these maxims? Well, you have all the answers. I'm just here to give you a tool to bring them out. Maxims can be inspired by people who have been important in our lives, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, children. They can be inspired by great business leaders who we look up to. Maxims can come from books, from poetry, from scripture. They can come from movies, anything that moves you emotionally. When you get those goosebumps, when you get that smile, when you get that knot in your stomach from that experience, that's where the Maxims are. And what I'd like to do today is go through the 4 aspects of leadership as I understand it and as I look at it, and share some of my Maxims by way of illustration so you understand how the method works, so you can go away and hopefully create your own set of Maxims. I like to think of leadership in terms of 4 aspects. Leading yourself. Where are you going? What do you stand for? Leading the thinking. And as I had conversations about coming here, we talked a lot about leading the thinking. How are you going to lead the organization to the next 87 years? I pay attention. Right? Leading your people, duh, we have to lead our people, and leading a balanced life, which I am awful at. And when you look at these 4 aspects of leadership, you can become that complete leader, whether you're at work, at play, at home with your family. You want to be authentic. You want to be the same person all the time. So we need to look at the complete individual. So let me explore these aspects of leadership. And I'm going to offer a few of my Maxims as we go through this. Not all of them. We don't have the time. But I would like to illustrate. So the first question I have leaders ask themselves is, why do you go to work each day? Why do you get out of bed every day? There's my Maxim. That's it. Light bulbs. Those 2 words mean nothing to you. They mean everything to me. I have goosebumps right now thinking about it. Light bulbs. This is why I do what I do. The moments when I'm up here with this, doing this, are the ones that I live for. Because my hope is that while I'm teaching, I will see that one person. I just need one. I just need one. And I see that light bulb go off. It's like, yeah, that, exactly. Because I've touched somebody's life. I've helped them be a better leader. I've had a positive impact on them and on their team. Now, let's look at the way Maxims drive behavior. I said this is about behavioral change. Imagine I have a client come to me and they say, Mike, we've got 2 pieces of work for you. One is go build a spreadsheet by yourself in a cubicle, and we're going to pay you X dollars for that. And the other is go write a leadership training program and deliver it for our high potential leaders. And that pays the same amount of money, takes the same amount of time. What does light bulb say to do? Right? Now, Mike, that's easy. We all hate Excel. Okay? Let me make the decision a little bit harder. As an entrepreneur, cash is kind of important, especially when you have 2 children in college and 1 on the way. Okay? Now let's say the client comes to me and says, Mike, we want you to go build a spreadsheet and we'll pay you X dollars. That's it. That's all we've got for you. What does light bulb say to do? Go find this. Go find this work that is tied to light bulbs. Find that next gig. Find that next client. And walking away from money when you have a mortgage and kids in college causes a visceral reaction. But every time I've made that decision based on my Maxims that said, this is why you go to work, I have been thrilled with the opportunities that come up. Are we seeing how Maxims can drive behavior, how they're simple, how they're tied here? Okay. So let's talk next about your moral compass. Like I said, we've all made bad decisions. And we have those moments where the pressure's on and we can logic our way into a bad choice. I think we've all been there. We can rationalize, oh, I should do this, it's going to be okay. And on the back end, we're not very happy with that choice. My Maxim is, what would Nana say? That's Nana, okay? Rose Figliuolo. I am the firstborn grandson in an Italian family. I am the anointed one, okay? Now, Nana and I had an incredibly special relationship. And when I look at decisions I have to make and I'm not sure which way to go, I step back and say, what would Nana say? And it's so clear. It's so clear the choice I have to make. And one of the toughest moments I ever had to apply that was actually about Nana. We lost Nana several years ago, and it was one of the most devastating days of my life. And 2 nights later, I was at my largest, most profitable client, delivering a keynote presentation, this presentation, to a room full of about 400 executives. And as I'm walking in the hotel that night, I said, oh my gosh, I have that slide in the presentation. I got to take it out because I'm going to choke up and I'm going to cry and the client's going to look and they're going to go, what's going on? He's crying up on stage. This isn't what we're paying for, right? And that voice starts kicking in, okay? And I stopped. And as I'm walking in the hotel, I said, what would Nana say? And Nana would say, Michael, because that's what she called me. She'd say, Michael, you're trying to teach people about how strong emotions can be and how they can drive the right behaviors. This is what you say you're about. This is about being authentic. Put up the slide, tell them you're going to cry, tell them you're going to choke up, and show them what the method's about. And I did. And it kind of messed me up because I thought it was the fourth slide and it was the third slide, and I turned around and there's Nana, and it was like, okay. And I lost it. And I lost it. And I had told people at the beginning of the presentation, I said, I'm going to have a moment, and I would just ask that you respect it. And the most interesting thing happened. Everybody was silent. And they let me have that moment. And afterwards, senior executives who are, in their suits and really important, folks that you would look at and say they're very aloof, they came up and they said, thanks. Thank you for that. Thank you for showing me it's okay to demonstrate my emotions. Thank you for showing me the power of vulnerability. Light bulbs went off for people, right? Because Rosie said, Michael, put up the slide. Okay? So let me jump to leading the thinking now. You have to set the direction for your organization for the next 87 years. Change is difficult, but I like to say your organization is going to change. Either you can change it or the world will change it for you. And when they do it, it is inherently less pleasant to go through, okay? So we need to lead the thinking for the organization. For me, it starts with standards, laying out a standard of behavior for your team, for your people. For me, that's it. That's the standard. A cadet will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those who do. It's the West Point Honor Code. I lived under it for 4 years. I did not violate it once in those 4 years. Now, I'm not going to stand up here and lie to you and tell you I haven't broken it since. I have. I'm not proud of it, right? But that maxim, it serves as that little conscience, that little voice that's over here going, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why'd you do that? Anybody in the room ever fess up to a lie? And I'm not talking when you got busted, okay? You got me. I'm talking about nobody ever would have known, okay? And you felt it here, and you went to that person, you said, I know what I told you yesterday, and it actually wasn't true, and I'm sorry about that, and it won't happen again. I feel bad. I haven't even lied to her, and I'm like feeling bad, right? That's hard to do. But the Cadet Honor Code serves as that moral compass for me in that moment, says this is a performance standard. And it's for me and my team. I'm setting an expectation. I fired one person in my career. One. Why do you think that is? They broke that. They lied to me 3 times in a row about the same issue. I gave them 3 chances. Third one, we're done. That's it. That's the standard. This is how we're going to lead this team forward. I need to set a direction for the team. Next, you need to set a vision for your organization. I don't care if it's your state organization or the international organization. People need to know where are we going and why should I be excited about it. You need to set that vision. That's your job as a leader. Now, I hate the people on my team because they make me do the things that I teach. And for this one, I used to have visions laid out by some business leaders that I thought were kind of cool. And Alan asked me one day, he's like, well, Mike, what's the vision for thought leaders? I said, shut up. He's like, no, seriously, what's the vision for thought leaders? I said, all right, you're right. He said, I'm going to build a global firm of uniquely skilled executives who teach managers around the world how to be great leaders, right? There's a lot in that. It sounds a little buzzwordy. But when you break it down, it's important that the team understands it and what are we doing? Why are we doing that? We're going to build a global firm, I live in Dublin, Ohio. Go Bucks. Yes. I almost said I-O. I almost said it. Okay. I got 2 kids at Ohio State. I live in Dublin, Ohio, and I'm building a global firm. Yes. Yes, I am. I've taught in Vietnam, Colombia, Hungary, Ireland. I'm going to Ireland and London in a couple weeks. Right? Been to Saudi Arabia. I'm building a global firm because our clients are global. Right? Uniquely skilled executives. We are executives. We're business people. That's the type of person that I'm going to hire because that's who can connect with my audience. And we're teaching, right, the core business managers how to be great leaders. And I do differentiate those two. And I've laid out that vision for the team. This is what we're going to build. Are we there yet? No. But I've said this is the destination, folks, and it drives all the decisions we make. When I get that phone call, hey, you want to come teach in Saudi Arabia? Yes, yes, I do. I do. And how can I learn about that culture? How can I learn about how our materials will translate to them? You're an international organization. It was so cool seeing you welcome all your international colleagues who have come from so far away, right? The power in that, the diversity of thought, and saying this is what we're going to build as a firm. So what's your vision for your organization? Can the people on your team tell you what it is? Does it rally them? Do they get excited about it? Next, you have to challenge the status quo. This is going to be the hard one for some of you, okay? Look, I fear change too. I hate change, okay? You wake me up 10 minutes late or 10 minutes early, I'm completely lost for the day. Change is painful, right? It's difficult. But as leaders, we need to challenge things. We need to challenge the status quo. My maxim for this is why? The 5 whys. Okay, I call him the inquisitive baby. Okay, and I get that picture in my mind. Why? And when I ask 5 times, this is how the business is. Well, why? Why is that? Why are we doing it that way? Well, because this. Yeah, but why did we make that decision? Well, because of this. Yeah, but why did we choose that? Well, because of this. Yeah, but why? Well, because we had this one rule. What if we change that rule? Can we change that rule? I guess so. Okay, and look at all the magic that happens, right? You have to challenge the way you do business, the way your organization functions. I heard, 90 motions, right? You folks are changing stuff every single day. We can't be afraid to do it, okay? Yes, the outcome is uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen. But when you step back and put some perspective on it, and I'll talk about perspective in a few minutes, right? Is the change really that scary? It's scary because it's the unknown. I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but let's put it in broader perspective. So how are you going to challenge the status quo? My challenge to all of you, okay, this week, find one change that needs to be made somewhere, either in your organization, the international organization, yourself, something that needs to change, or at least something you need to challenge and ask about. Okay? Just one. Try one and see how it goes. Okay? Lastly, in terms of change and leading the thinking, after all those thoughts, you have to drive action. Alan always tells me, Mike, thoughts are nice, actions matter. And he's right. Now, I don't have too much trouble making decisions. Usually I got to slow myself down for making decisions. That's just how I'm wired. But every once in a while, I'm on the edge of it, and I'm looking down over that cliff and saying, what do I do now? And I got to make the jump. And there are 2 maxims I hold up that get me to take that step. The first, General George S. Patton. In case of doubt, attack. And what Patton is saying there is sitting there and doing nothing is going to be the wrong answer. Do something. Move the organization forward. And guess what? You may make a decision and it was a bad one. You go, not going to do that again, okay? And you learn something. You learn something. Now, Mike, where's the emotional resonance for Patton? Okay. Patton was a West Point grad. I'm a West Point grad. Patton was an armor officer. Actually, he was the father of modern armor warfare. I was an armor officer. Okay, I walk past that Patton statue every single day on my way to class. My first dog's name was Patton, okay? I kind of look up to the guy, right? So there's that resonance for me. In case of doubt, attack. The second one that I hold up is by Geddy Lee of the band Rush. Do I have any Rush fans in the room? Okay, we got a few Rush fans. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice, right? Inaction is still an action. What you've done is abdicate the choice and said, I'm going to let the world decide for me, okay? Usually that doesn't work out so well. So when I'm facing that moment saying, well, let me see how things play out, I'm not going to make a decision right now. Yeah, you just did. You decided to wait. Where are my friends from the gelato stand from last night? There they are, right? We were having this conversation around, there's so many flavors. What do I choose? Just pick one. Actually, I cheated. I picked two because I couldn't decide. So I said, I'll have the butterscotch and the caramel. Okay? Make a decision. Make a decision. Move the organization forward. Make a choice. Even if it's, we're going to try it. Maybe we won't roll it out completely. Let's just try it. You've moved the organization forward. You've led the thinking. After you've set the direction and decided how you're going to move forward, now you need to lead the people and say, this is where we're going. This is the promised land. First thing you have to do is remember their wants and needs. Know them as individuals. Anybody in the room been treated as a cog in the machine at some point in your life? Right? Okay, wow. All right. It's painful. It's not fun, right? We're teachers, right? We have to know people as individuals if we want to motivate them and inspire them. My maxim is a bottle of 7-Up. That's it. Just the image of a bottle of 7-Up. When I was in the Army, I had a soldier in my platoon. He was a problem child. He would show up late. He would show up drunk. He would show up late and drunk. One time the breathalyzer said, you're kidding, right? It didn't even register. And you'd have to micromanage him and follow him around all day. Well, one day we're out in the field. We're playing cards. And it was hot. And I gave my driver $5. I said, hey, go down to the snack tent, get some sodas. And he went to run off and said, hang on. And I wrote a list. And I gave it to him. And he went out. And he came back. And he started handing out the sodas. And he gave Problem Child a can of 7-Up. And Problem Child looked at, we didn't call him Problem Child. Okay, it was just. Problem Child looked at him. He said, looked at my driver. He said, you know I drink 7-Up? He said, no, Lieutenant Fig knows. He looks at me and says, sir, you know I drink 7-Up? I said, yeah, I know a lot of things about you. His only reaction was, that was it. The next day, it was weird. It was like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. He was up, he was on time, he was dressed, he was doing his job, nobody following around. It was pretty amazing. And at the end of the workday, I pull him aside and I say, hey, Problem Child. I didn't call him Problem Child. I said, hey, I just want to thank you for today. You did, a great job. He said, thanks, sir. I said, we both know this isn't normal, right? He said, yeah. I said, what's going on? Remember you gave me that 7-Up yesterday? What, when we were playing cards? He said, yeah. I said, yeah. He said, that's the first time that somebody showed me that they care about me as an individual in a really long time. And I figure if you care about me, I should care about the work I do for you. It was a soda. Now all the Ohio folks are like, he's not from Ohio. He said soda. It's pop. Right? So how do you stay in touch with your people? How do you know them as individuals? Do you really know them? Okay. Then you have to stay in touch with their reality. If you want to lead them and motivate them and inspire them, you need to know what they go through on a daily basis. My maxim to remind me to get out of the ivory tower every once in a while is, he's under the tank, sir. We were out in the field. A lot of my stories about leading people go back to the military. We were out in the field, and I was under the tank, changing track, and my driver's leaning up against the tank, smoking his cigarette. He's a buck private. And the colonel comes up looking for me. My driver salutes with his cigarette still in his hand. We had a conversation about that one. Salutes, and Colonel says, where's Lieutenant Figliuolo? And my driver points to the boots sticking out from under the tank. And the Colonel says, no, where's Lieutenant Figliuolo? Emphasis on lieutenant, emphasis on officer, emphasis on officers aren't under tanks, they're up giving orders. And he had to emphasize lieutenant because there were so many Figliuolos in the unit, right? And my driver again points to the boots. And the colonel leans over and says, Figliuolo. And I crawl out and I say, yes, sir. He says, what are you doing under the tank? I said, I'm fixing the track, sir. And he said, why are you fixing the track? I said, it's broken. What he was really asking was, why is a second lieutenant in the mud when a driver is standing here, a buck private, smoking a cigarette? Okay? And the reason was, my driver had been working at it for about 3 hours. His knuckles were all bloody and busted up. I was done with my work. I said, give me the wrench. Let me get under there and get at it. And the colonel was so flustered by it, just this synapses were blowing up in his brain. He forgot why he was mad at me and he just left. So that was kind of awesome. It was weird and expected as you look back on it. After lunch, that story got around the battalion before lunch. Okay? After lunch, I had soldiers from other units coming up and saying, hey, sir, you got any openings in your platoon? Because I think I'd like to come work with you. Right? Understand what they're going through. Understand the challenges your people face every single day. I also learned we were missing a few sockets. We were missing a spanner wrench. We were missing a couple other tools. And that's why his knuckles were all busted up. I never would have known that if I had kept sitting up in the top of the tank just reading the map. And I looked at him like, can you tell me when we lose tools? Okay. Right? Like, he was 18. He wasn't thinking beyond this. Right? But knowing the challenges they face, I was able to be a better leader to them. Now, your job is to develop them, help them be more than they are today, help them grow, right? Challenge them. For me, my maxim is, it's easier to correct course 100 yards into a journey than 100 miles, right? We've all had those people where they do this and we want them doing that, and we say, I'll tell them about it tomorrow, and then it goes like this, like, it's going to be a tough conversation, I'll do it next week, and then it goes like this, and it's going to be a really hard conversation, then it goes like this, and it's, here's your box to pack up your stuff, right? Because we avoid it. We avoid that difficult conversation. That conversation doesn't get easier over time. I had a guy on my team where he did this, and I should have done that, and I was like, I'm not dealing with it today. He's in a bad mood. Next day, it went like this. Next week, it went like this. And he was beating his people up. He was berating them. It was just not a good situation. But I wasn't stepping up to the plate and telling him, hey, knock it off. And then he quit. Problem solved. Then I was talking to Alan again. Alan said, Mike, you failed. What do you mean? He said, all that time, you were failing the members of his team. That was your job to fix that issue, and you didn't step up to it. You're right. And then Alan said it to me. He said, it's easier to correct course 100 yards in than 100 miles. You're right. That person that I fired, this. Started going like this, lie number 1, lie number 2, lie number 3. Had the conversation, and we're done. And there have been other times where people have done this, and not as egregious as, the lie situation. And I've stopped, and I've said, I need to have the conversation with them. Hey, can I give you some feedback? Right? Those are really difficult words to say. Can I give you some feedback? Right? That not forms up. But that maxim drives the right behavior for me, and I can be a better leader and drive the change in my team that I need to drive. Now let's talk about leading a balanced life. Because if you're burned out, you're worthless. Okay? We need to have that balance as leaders because we all push ourselves too hard. Right? I was looking over some of your credentials, and it's like, wow, these are amazing people. Right? But there's a cost to that. There's a cost to all that development, all that training, everything that you go through. We pay a price. Stress, right? Frustration, time away from family. Right? These are big challenges. So the biggest thing about balance is setting and maintaining a boundary. Okay? We have to have boundaries so people know this is where I'm going to operate. Outside of it, you're asking too much of me. Sometimes we're the ones who are violating that boundary. We're saying, oh, I'm just going to work a couple more hours. You said you were going to cut off at this time. We need those boundaries, but the boundary has to be a powerful reminder to get us to change our behaviors. I really need these. I'm an entrepreneur. Okay, the more work I do, the better the business does, but it comes at a cost. Okay? Is anybody familiar with the acronym STEMI, S-T-E-M-I? Okay. STEMI. ST segment elevated myocardial infarction. Now we know what that is. Okay, STEMI. November 13th, 2013. Having lunch with a friend, and it's, I can't. And then the pain out the back, over the skull, down the arms, down the legs. Okay, I said, this isn't normal. So I drove to the ER, because that's what you do. They wheel me back, okay. They throw on all the monitors, and the doc says, you're having a heart attack. I said, okay. And then the nurse manager walks in. She looks at me. She's like, you're Lisa's coach, right? I said, yep, I was coaching the chief nursing officer at that hospital. She's like, this is weird. So then they say, you're going to have to go downtown to Riverside. You're going to have to get stented. Looks like you've got a blockage. And that's me on the gurney. That's a selfie. During a heart attack. And the paramedics are looking at me. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like snapping them off. They're like, what are you doing? I said, taking selfies. They're like, what? I said, I got two choices right now. I can hang out and take some selfies, or I can freak out. Which would you prefer? Proceed with the selfies. Okay. They say the gurney adds 10 pounds. No, 10 pounds adds 10 pounds. I was that fat in that picture, okay? So I go downtown, going through the wrist. They stent me. My right coronary artery was 100% blocked. 100%, okay? 2 stents later, I'm out. The next day, I changed my life, okay? Diet change, exercise change, right? All these good changes that had to happen. And I said, dude, you need some balance in your life. And you sit there and say, oh, I'm at O'Hare. I don't have time to eat properly. Guess what? They sell salad at O'Hare. They do. Okay? I had to change everything. I needed to get myself in balance, right? And that's that reminder for me, STEMI. Every single time I'm driving by Taco Bell, it's like, STEMI, right? Just go the other way, right? Junk food, rushing too hard, working too late, working too hard. STEMI. Do you want that to happen again? Oh, and by the way, it did. The first one, my fault. Second one, not my fault, okay? It was not my fault. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Because the second one, okay, I had dropped 15 pounds. I dropped my cholesterol down to 125. 125. Okay, I was exercising regularly. I was doing great. I'm on a plane to Salt Lake City. Oh, man. So we land, get the paramedics, okay. I had thrown a clot. Okay, not my fault. Not my fault. Got stented again, and now I'm fine, and I'm hoping. My nitro's in my bag, just in case. Okay, it's right there. Right. But still, it's that constant reminder. Mike, STEMI. Do you want this to happen again? Stay in balance. Stay focused on what's important, right? You want to watch your kids graduate. You can't teach if you're dead, sort of thing, right? STEMI, that behavioral reminder. And then perspective. We have to maintain perspective. As leaders, right, it's easy to get a little bit freaked out. There's a lot of stress, a lot of things are going on, and that stress elevates, and we start flipping out a little bit. Now, if you're flipping out, guess what your team's doing? They're really flipping out. Like, if the boss is freaking out, this is bad, okay? Your job in that moment is to restore order, regain perspective. Because when we lose perspective, what happens, and this is the amygdala at work, this, okay? The blinders go on, and we just focus on that thing that's causing this stress response. The thing is, the answer is usually like right over here, but the blinder is on, and we can't see it. When you pause and you breathe, okay, oh, here it is. Now, I could freak out a lot. I was good at it back in the days pre-STEMI, all right? And I needed those reminders, like, get it back in perspective, man. One morning I was going into work, and I looked at my phone, and I saw my calendar, and I said, it's going to be one of those days. And I was already stressed out at like 7 in the morning, and I was ordering my bacon, egg, and cheese croissant, pre-STEMI. They had the Burger King crowns on the counter. So I picked one up, put it in the last notch because I got a giant head, and I put it on. And I wore it all day. All day. one-on-one with my boss, one-on-one with my teammates, steering committee meeting. I'm in the steering committee. I'm like, so what's the R-squared correlation on that? They're like, what, Burger King correlation, what? Like, people can't process this. And one of my guys came up after the meeting and he said, why are you wearing the crown? Because. No, seriously, why are you wearing the crown? Did you lose a bet or something? What? Why are you wearing the crown? Because. And if you have to ask me again, I feel really bad for you. Right? Because you don't get it. We can't take ourselves that seriously. The reason I was getting so amped up is I'm looking at all this stuff and saying it's all so important. No, it's credit cards, man. Nobody is going to die. Okay? Step back. Get it in perspective. Take a breath. Laugh at yourself for a moment. Look at something dumb you've done. Well, that was pretty stupid, right? Get it in perspective fast. And I needed that reminder, especially back in those days. And that crown would sit on my desk. Just sat there. And when I feel myself doing this and getting amped up, I just look over and be like, okay. There were days I'd put it on. People go by the office, they look in, leave them alone. It's crown day. Okay? It worked, okay? It worked. Got me back smiling, relaxing, okay? Keeping it in perspective. And sometimes we need a bigger reminder of perspective, okay? That's Mikey, okay? Then he was Michael, and now he's Mike. He's, I don't know, 5 there. When he was about 2.5-ish, maybe, I was working at McKinsey, and I was pretty important. Doing mergers, doing acquisitions, in with the board of directors, the CEO, just really important stuff. Industry shaping stuff. I am a titan of industry, okay? And I was on a particularly important engagement, at least I thought it was very important. We were doing a merger, and we finally got the board approval. We had the board meeting that day. The board approves $250 million acquisition. Right? Kind of cool. And I had built the model that said what we should pay, and it was like I was an integral part of this acquisition. So I come in the house that night from work, wear my Hugo Boss suit. Yeah. Titan of industry. Mikey hears me walk in. Dad! Yeah. Come wipe me, I pooped. Boom! Like, true story. True story. You wipe butts, dude. That's what you do, okay? Needed to be reminded by a child, you are not that important. What is it? You're not. You're not. Okay? Perspective. Every time I think about that moment, it's like, all right, really? Is it that important? Is it that terrifying? Right? I'll be candid. This is the largest audience I've ever had the privilege of speaking in front of. Right? And that's terrifying. It is. When I walked in the room last night, it's like, oh my God. And then I got to meet some of you. I'm like, oh, they're so nice. They're so great. This is like the greatest audience to speak in front of. But it is. It is. You're all so wonderful and so lovely and so kind and so welcoming, right? Not like some of my business audiences that I deal with. So it's kind of a good like gateway into bigger presentations. But you know, there's that moment where you say, "What if I mess up? What if my slides don't work?" And it's like, so what? Okay, so what? Just be you. Be a person. Talk with them about a topic you're passionate about. It'll work out, man. It'll be just fine. Okay? And having that Burger King crown, having Mikey go, okay, so Dad, what's the worst thing that happened? Ooh, they didn't like you. They didn't clap. You didn't get a standing whatever. Pay my tuition. My car needs an oil change. They're so much easier when they're tiny. They really are. So much easier. Right? But again, that perspective. When I have those moments where I'm flipping out, right? The Burger King crown, Mikey, they just say, yeah, it's going to be okay. There are more important things in this world than whatever it is you're stressing out about, right? And it's all mutually reinforcing. So I've shared a few of my maxims with you to illustrate how the method works, right? The stories that are emotionally resonant, the things that mean so much to me, but most importantly, how they drive my behavior, how they drive me to change, how they drive me to set direction, set standards, uphold standards, have difficult conversations, move my organization forward, maintain perspective, right? Maintain balance. And if you'll notice, all of them have integrity. I have integrity. And not from the standpoint of, lying, cheating, stealing. I mean integrity in the definition of internal consistency, right? The way I say I'm going to lead myself reinforces how I lead my people, reinforces how I lead a balanced life, and how I lead the thinking. It's all mutually reinforcing. I'm the same guy up here as I am hanging out in the bar, as I am hanging out with my friends, as I am with my kids, okay? It's wonderful to be authentic, to just be who you are. And I hope that for all of you, that you can find that place where you say, this is the leader I am. And yes, I'm going to change these things I'm keeping, but this is who I am. I'm comfortable in my skin. I know who I am, and my people know who I am, right? And builds that bond of trust. Now, I've gotten to speak with you for, I don't know how many minutes. Where's Royce? She hasn't thrown anything yet, so I'm still like, good. They told me you get a 30-second window. I'm like, dude, can I get 5-minute window kind of thing? So 5 minutes, I got 5, right? So being able to just be yourself is the most wonderful place to be as a leader. And knowing the people on your team and having them know you. I've known you for all of 35, 40 minutes. And you have a pretty good sense for who I am, right? You know what I stand for. You know what I'm about. You know what I believe. What I feel strongly about, what my passions are, what my weak spots are, my vulnerabilities. You've known me for 35 minutes. And I bet you could make an assessment pretty quickly if I said, hey, I have a job opening, if you would want to apply for it or not. If the content was in your area of expertise and some, attractive salary, all that stuff, let's take that off the table. But would you want to work with me or not? In 35 minutes, I've given you a pretty good sense of this is what you're getting. And some of you may go, absolutely, would love to do it. And some of you are like, where's the exit? Okay? And you know what? Either outcome is fine. Either outcome is fine. Because you know who I am and what I stand for. If you say, I want to work with you, we're going to work well together, right? Because I've told you this is who I am. If you say, no way, okay, it would not work out well because I'm not necessarily going to change everything about who I am, right? I'll change some things, but who I am is who I am. And either I'll be unhappy if I'm changing things and not being authentic, or you'll be unhappy because I'm just being me, right? So the power in the Maxims method is being able to sit down with somebody new on your team or a prospect or somebody you're trying to get to join the organization and say, let me tell you who I am. Let me tell you what I'm about. And I can say, I love working with her. That's who I want to work with. She's great, right? Rather than, well, my leadership philosophy is to optimally leverage the human capital assets that have been allocated to me. But what? No, okay? Buzzwords don't cut it, folks. They sound good, but they say nothing. Be who, right? Right? Be who you authentically are. And authenticity is easy. Just drop the mask, for crying out loud. Okay? We all make mistakes. We all have things about ourselves that we don't like. It's okay. Just be who you are, because there is a wonderful, amazing person inside if you let them out. If you let them out. And this whole method is about helping you find them and helping you put words to it and put stories to it so you can get here, get out of here, and get into here, find that emotional resonance. So I invite all of you to think about the method. Think about what your leadership maxims can be. Okay? So to that end, look, I'm not pushing product. I make 50 cents a copy on a book. Okay? It's like, I don't care about that. The book for me is about light bulbs. Is somebody, find Sandra. Where's her book? Hold up your book. Where is it? It's, right? It's up top.
I'll get it.
Do you mind if I do?
Go ahead.
See all these yellow sticky notes that she has in here? See that? And there's writing all over the pages. This is how you do this stuff. She did it absolutely right. This is a workbook, not a reading book. This is about going inside and asking and answering all the questions that are in here and putting together your own personal leadership maxims. And she shared one with me last night, and it was like the coolest story. And I know so much more about her and the way she operates just based on one story. And guess what? Now we have a connection, something to talk about, something to build a basis of trust from. So I invite you all to think about who you are as a leader, who you want to be as a leader, and then live it every single day. I wish you all the best of luck. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the opportunity to come and spend time with you. Thank you so much, and I look forward to speaking with you more. Thank you. Thank you. I am... I think I turned on a light bulb, right? Thank you.